Secret Service has officially discovered what seems to be cocaine in the West Wing of the White House. Not the first time drugs have been in a government building, certainly not the first time it's been admitted that they've been used in the White House itself. But what's so fascinating about this is people are freaking out and speculating, oh no, could it be Hunter Biden's? Is it Hunter Biden's cocaine? Did he leave drugs in the White House? I don't care. It's completely irrelevant to me. The thing that matters to me is the fact that this family may be selling out their name for foreign influence. Outside of that, I don't care that Hunter Biden's doing drugs, slanging hookers. I don't care that he's smoking crack in rehab in the sensory deprivation chambers with his prostitutes. It means nothing to me. I don't care about the videos of him doing that. I care about the fact that he has pictures with children that seem to be incredibly inappropriate. And I'm also more curious about the nature of the fact that the family could be selling out their name for foreign influence. This is what needs to be looked into. All of that other stuff is completely irrelevant in my eyes because it's not my business what someone does behind closed doors. It's just really funny that what was done behind closed doors so happened to be on a laptop that got distributed to the public. Let's go ahead and jump in. Breaking from the Post-Millennial, it says, Biden's Secret Service has cocaine found in the West Wing of White House, contradicting early reports. And there were statements saying, no, there were no drugs found in the White House. It's not cocaine. Don't worry about it. But here we are. What we have is it appears there were drugs in the West Wing. And the West Wing is actually a place where people can go and people tour the White House and they walk through and there are like questions that people ask and stuff and they just get brought around the entire place and they just get to look around. So it's very well possible someone could have just stashed this, but every nook and cranny of the White House is recorded 24/7, 365 days a year. So it shouldn't be too hard to find out who did this as long as you have someone that just meticulously watches the footage and goes through it. So we should find out. But what we won't find out is actually who did it because they're not going to release that information. The thing that's hilarious about this, like I said, is people think this is Hunter Biden, and I just don't care because I'm for legalization of drugs. I'm not someone who gives a shit what someone does behind closed doors. It's simply not my business, and what someone else does behind their closed doors is none of your business either. So, the Secret Service has said that the substance was found in the West Wing, prompting a round of speculation as to how it got there, which I assume some of the speculation will incorporate what I was just talking about with the fact that people can go into the West Wing because they're giving guided tours. Reports emerged on Monday that cocaine was found on the White House grounds, causing Secret Service to rush outside and evacuate on Sunday. That causes an evacuation. It's like we used to evacuate because of a fire drill and everyone got annoyed. I'd be so annoyed if someone got caught with like cocaine at my school when I was in high school. And they're like, oh, this kid's getting kicked out and booted to ALCs, going to the principal's office. Time to kick every single person out of the school. All of you, 3,000, 4,000 of you, go stand out in that heat. Go enjoy that Texas heat and go sweat yourself to death. No, that would have absolutely been detestable. The fact that they got a hazmat team because they had a small baggie that could have been cocaine. That's just the most like bureaucratic nonsense I've ever heard. It's like, oh, we found a small baggie of cocaine. Quick, grab the hazmat gear. It's ridiculous. It reminds me of the cops taking a picture of like a small baggie of weed that's like probably like a quarter of an ounce. And they're sitting there like, look at this. We found 2 pounds of marijuana. The danger that we removed from our streets. So it says, now the Secret Service has said that the substance was found in the West Wing, prompting the round of speculation as to how it got there, leading to multiple different rounds of questioning. The U.S. Secret Service is investigating a suspicious substance that prompted a brief evacuation when it was found Sunday evening inside the White House. A preliminary test indicated that substance was cocaine, according to an official. So this is a tweet from the Washington Post. And the thing that I just find, again, so hilarious about this, it's like, we have to shut everything down. We found a small dime bag of cocaine. Quick. Everyone reroute your entire schedules. Like, it's absolutely absurd. It says Hunter Biden, who was the White House's only 2 days prior to the discovery of it, taking a trip with his dad to the president to Camp David, has a long history of drug use and abuse, as detailed both in his memoir Beautiful Things, as revealed through his abandoned laptop as well. An audio recording from the D.C. Fire and Emergency Medical Services revealed that the substance tested positive for cocaine. It is said to at first have been found in the library 2 floors below the official residence. So, I mean, like, yeah, someone's just, like, hitting some bumps in the library, just big chilling, and then the Secret Service busts in and completely ruins all their fun, and then they end up finding some little baggie when, I don't know, I guess a maid's cleaning up or something. They're like, quick, shut it all down. So, this is apparently where it was discovered, and a small baggie of cocaine. And only the government would act to such a degree over something so small that they would make such a performative statement to look, we're above this. We're above repudiation. This is absolutely heinous. We would never. Meanwhile, they're doing the most absolutely nefarious shit behind closed doors. If you think what the elite class does behind closed doors isn't absolutely scuffed beyond belief, then I'd argue you're not thinking, because this is realistically how power games end up working. It's just how the backslide of how people end up subtly shifting themselves and their perspectives based on how much power they acquire. It's just human nature, and it's completely understandable based on what people get themselves into over time. And I'd recommend books like Jonathan Haidt's The Rational Mind, and then I believe it's Friedrich Ehrlich's The Mind is Not a Prison is another good example that will explain this. So, what we see is now, like some sort of wacky clue game, it turns out the cocaine was found in the West Wing where president and staff spend their time. So, it goes from the fact that it was found in the library, and it's found in the library in the West Wing. What do? If the cocaine was found in the library on the ground floor Sunday, as the dispatch audio says, it's possible it was planted there by a tourist on Saturday. While tourists cannot enter the library, only look inside, someone might have tossed a bag in the room. You never know. And then she does like a winking emoji. It's like, yeah, I'm sure some tourist just ended up hitting a fat Kobe and just throwing it straight in, and they just nailed it right into the spot. Just this hidden little place. Or someone in the elite class is sitting there doing cocaine in the library of the West Wing. What's more likely? They're just people just like everyone else. They do drugs and drink just like everyone else. No one should be surprised about this. And it says from the AP, there's just so many different articles, which we won't go through all of them. We're going to cover just a couple headlines and stuff. I don't want this to be too long. It's not that big of a deal. It's a funny topic. It's entertainment for me. The Secret Service found cocaine at the White House, the AP sources say. So, the White House is briefly evacuated Sunday evening while President Joe Biden was at Camp David after Secret Service discovered suspicious powder in a common area of the West Wing. Which, they could have thought it was like anthrax and stuff, so that's why they had to get the hazmat team in. But you're telling me Secret Service, knowing the Biden family to the degree that they absolutely know the Biden family, isn't just sitting there like, oh yeah, obviously this is cocaine. It's stunning. It says the agents were doing routine rounds on Sunday when they found the white powder in an area accessible to tour groups, not in particular West Wing office, the officials said. The officials were not authorized to discuss an ongoing investigation and spoke to the Associated Press on conditions of anonymity. So, here we see it says areas accessible to tour groups, and as we see that one lady was saying, oh, well, this area is accessible to tour groups, but they don't actually get to go into the library, so they would have had to have like yeeted it in there and just chunked it in. Absolute nonsense. Same articles, cocaine at the White House sparks confusion over who had access to the location. No one really knows. And then we see suspected cocaine found in the White House West Wing under investigation. It's all the same stuff. They all run the same headlines. No one talks about any of the fact that it's not a big deal that they're actually using drugs, and the only reason that it's a big deal that they're using drugs is because they're so performative about the nature of the people in society taking these actions. And if they weren't, and they didn't act like the fact that they were better than everyone because they themselves wouldn't dare operate on this plane of existence because they're above repudiation and da-da-da-da-da and so on and so forth, well, you would have the fact that you would realize, and they would realize, that everyone does drugs. So many people are caffeinated and stemmed up beyond belief just on caffeine alone, and that in itself is a drug. If you say to yourself you don't do drugs, but you take large copious amounts of caffeine, I got news for you. So, here we have a tweet from Brian Krasenstein, and this is just the Kopensteins brothers striking again, and it says, if you are making a big deal about the Secret Service finding cocaine at the White House where tour guests store their phones, then you are being disingenuous and partisan, which I agree with that sentiment. I do not care that the fact that there are drugs stored in the White House. And I mean this, it could have been in like their personal bedroom and they're like, oh yeah, we got our little dime bag of cocaine in the nightstand. So what? Means not to me. It says, while I'm sure that some Democrats would have done the same thing to Trump or Don Jr. had the roles been reversed, if you're using this incident to argue the Biden administration, you are being ignorant. Find an actual policy to debate. So, the thing to debate here, which, again, this is just more cope from the Kopensteins, but the thing to debate here is the fact that Joe Biden's son is doing these drugs, and people in his administration and his family are taking these actions that otherwise would have gotten regular citizens thrown into jail. That is the major problem here. The fact that citizens will be thrown into jail if they were to take the same actions that the elite class themselves are taking. Because it's rules for thee and not for me. That is the fundamental which we operate on, and the fact that he acts like this isn't a big deal when someone like Joe Biden was the author of the 1994 crime bill, which locked up so many African American individuals and threw them in jail and locked away the key and had no desire to end up letting them get out of jail and threw people away for doing something that didn't harm anyone else but themselves. They were making the decision to go through the process of having a transaction to acquire a product so that they could use the product themselves. There's nothing wrong with a peaceful transaction of goods. Doesn't matter if you disagree with it. The fact is, it was a peaceful and voluntary transaction, and that is what is most valuable, the voluntary nature of the transaction itself. So, here we see Hunter Biden filmed himself smoking crack behind the wheel, driving 172 miles per hour on the Vegas freeway. So, this is hilarious and also awful because he's smoking crack while driving through a residential neighborhood where children play, going 172 miles an hour. He might as well just turn some child into pain if they just accidentally step out into the road. I don't know if you've ever actually seen someone, like on a motorcycle or something, fly by you on the highway at over 100 miles an hour. I've seen someone fly by me probably roughly going 145 on a motorcycle, and it blew my mind how quick it was. In a blink of an eye, just gone. And that is exactly what would happen to a child. In the blink of an eye, gone, because this derelict is smoking crack and driving 172 miles an hour through a neighborhood. That is dangerous, and it needs to be paid attention to. I care about the fact that these people are not being held to the same standards as regular individuals, because if anything, these are the standards that regular individuals should be held to. The fact that they should be able to do whatever they please behind closed doors if it doesn't infringe on another person's liberty. This is the nature of what it means to be a free people. And if anyone doesn't like that, then I'd argue you simply just don't like freedom. So, new photos reportedly show Hunter Biden speeding at 172 miles an hour, smoking crack while driving. And the pictures are right here. He's like got the crack pipe itself, and you can see 172 miles an hour. Like they're literally two photos next to each other in his dockets. It's just wild because you see this and you're looking at it and it's like, oh man, he's flying. Look at Hunter Biden just sitting there, cheeked out, just who knows what's going on the other side of this photo. Who knows what the ladies are doing to him. And then we have exclusive Life in the Fast Lane, how reckless Hunter Biden photographed himself driving at 172 miles per hour behind the wheel of his Porsche en route to a days-long Vegas bender with prostitutes and pictured himself smoking crack while behind the wheel. So, come on, man. So, like, and people talked about this. He gets off the highway and he's just blowing through a residential area. So, I love that he's going to a days-long bender. He's going to go just slang some prostitutes and smoke crack while being a derelict. It's like, okay, again, I just don't care. It's not something that matters to me. What matters to me is the fact that they could be selling out their family's name for influence, and the fact that we, as civilians, are not privy to the same rules that the elite class operate under. Because that's not a fair system, because the myth of objective law is just that, a myth. That's all I've got for this. I really enjoyed making this segment because it's just funny, but give this a thumbs up if you liked it, a thumbs down if you didn't. Share it with someone if you enjoyed it, and go ahead and tell someone you love them. Peace.